Welcome everyone to our first ever Follow My Framework webinar. Today we have brought on a very special guest, and we're going to take a deeper dive, inside look, if you will, at how he's approaching estate planning in his practice. And with that, I'd love to introduce you to Bob Chitrathorn. Bob, I hope I said your last name right.
Nope, you did it perfectly.
Okay. Bob and I have known each other for quite a few years. If you know me, first and foremost, I'm the chief evangelist at Trust and Will, and I've spent most of my career, so the last decade in this industry, working with financial advisors from all areas of their business. I've worked through the service provider and fintech side, so really helping you implement technology and scaling your business in different ways, whether it's estate planning or it's your CRM or it's marketing or it's succession planning. I've really gotten to sort of make my way around this industry, which gives me a cool perspective being an outsider. Although I am very much an insider, my fiance is a financial advisor, so I feel like I'm in your world every single day, and I love getting to support advisors and helping them grow. And I met Bob along the way. So Bob, I think that was when I was back at Snappy Kraken. Yep, Trust and Will partner, actually. So lead gen, marketing for financial advisors. And Bob has just always been a superstar. And what I've learned about Bob over the years is that he's a very passionate advisor and person in general. I share that with you, Bob. I'm a super passionate person. I think it's what helps me succeed in business. And when I saw that Bob was using Trust and Will as of this year, I knew, oh my gosh, I have to invite him on. We have to talk about what he's doing with estate planning and how he's succeeding. And Bob, I know that this is still the beginning of your journey with Trust and Will, your journey of implementing estate planning for your business and for your clients. So there's so much more that we'll have to talk about and catch up on in the future as you continue to implement this. But a quick formal introduction. Who is Bob? He's got over 20 years of experience. He's a best-selling author. He works with all types of really cool clients. Bob, maybe you can just take a minute to share with our audience here who you are and really why you're here today.
Yeah, my life is simple. Try to do the best for everybody I can. It brings happiness to everyone. I know it sounds cliche, but that's what I really believe. What I'm here to do today is kind of teach all the other advisors. I've always wanted to make the financial system a little bit different, right? I want everybody to have a good outlook at advisors, and that's not always been the case. When people hear financial advisors, I mean, we're even taught when someone asks you what you do, don't say financial advisor, right? Come up with a different elevator pitch. And that's just because of the connotation around the word financial advisor. And I've always wanted to change that. And part of changing that is to try to make advisors and help advisors to offer more and do better. But at the end of the game, it's helping clients get better and people get better and just the world get better in general. And when I found out about Trust and Will, I call it TW. When I found out about TW and the seat-based pricing, I was extremely ecstatic. I literally told my wife about it, and she had no idea what I was talking about, didn't know why I was happy. But once I explained it to her, it made sense. And so, I'm just here to help make the world a better place. And, there's so many people that can actually do so much, and just one touch can go a long way. So let's make the world a better place. Let's do it.
That's awesome. Like I said, a very passionate advisor. So thank you so much, Bob, for sharing a little bit more about yourself. Now, who's pictured in this photo here?
That is my lovely wife, Brittany. She is a registered nurse here out in Riverside, Corona area. That's me, obviously. And then that is my little nephew. He is now almost 4, a little bit more rambunctious than he was then. But yeah, that's us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that photo so much. And it's always great to, when you have nieces and nephews, it's like that are not your children, you get to spend all this time with them, enjoy them, and then you get to give them back. So I totally understand that. I've got some nieces and nephews myself.
Yeah, I used to think it was funny he had to take nap time, but he makes me take nap time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they do. They wear you out. Okay, so let's dive a bit into your framework. Now, a few things I want to set up before we get into this. Some of you are asking in the chat, is this being recorded? Yes, this is being recorded. We record all of our webinars. And because you registered and or attended today, you're going to get a copy of this recording in your email by the end of the week. So we do promise you that before we take off for the holidays. You'll also get a copy of the slides. So you can take some notes, but we will have some notes and resources linked directly in the slides today. And then at the end, a way for you to take that next step with Trust and Will, whether that's just really starting small or you want to go all in with us, then we'll give you some steps to do that at the end of the webinar. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on the chat box and the slides at the same time. I may be hopping in back and forth, but if you have questions that come up throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop them in the chat. There's also a dedicated questions box. So if you want to use that too, I welcome you to use either one that you're most comfortable with. And we've already got some questions so far. People are curious about compliance, about other things, so we will definitely get to your questions. There will be a dedicated Q&A at the end. Okay, so it looks like Darren is for Rancho Cucamonga, Alta Loma, Small World. He mentioned that in the chat too, Bob. Okay, moving along here. So Bob, when we first had our conversation, when we were planning this webinar, one of the things Bob made clear to me, because he started with Trust and Will, I think it was back in May, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think,
but
didn't start till June.
Yep. Okay. So still very recent. And one of the things you made clear to me was like, right now, I've got this sort of semi-baked process, but it's producing results and it's going to continue to evolve and shapen up over time. And even though that's the case, I still think what you have to share and what you've been doing so far would be very valuable for our audience. So what we've done is taken this sort of semi-shaped process and built it out into some steps for all of you. So let's start with step number one. Bob, you mentioned that you try your hardest to identify the right moments to bring up the topic of estate planning with your clients. And so we're calling this almost like a touch points philosophy. So let's talk about this, Bob. Where do you find the time? Where do you find the space to bring up the topic of estate planning with your clients?
Well, the core of it, short and simple, everybody's probably going to raise their hand if they've heard of ABC, always be closing. Oh my goodness, old school, time. We hear that all the time back in the day. I kind of took that to the next level, and it's always be willing and always be trusting. And again, always be willing is, willing to help. Always be trusting is be trustworthy. But also when it comes to, estate planning, is always be willing to talk about wills and always be willing to talk about trust. Anytime you have an opportunity, we want to talk about how we can help people and help people in their finances and, manage their 401ks or do this, do that. But I find it that actually talking about wills and trusts actually kind of gets that conversation started a little bit sooner rather than later and less awkward than talking about dollars from the get-go, because most people understand that that's something they don't have and it's something that they need and just don't know where to go. So I'm always talking about it. When I do an email to a client for their birthdays, when a client calls me, hey, when was the last time your trust was updated? If I don't know, right? Because again, this is new to me as well. And if I don't know, I'm asking, hey, when your trust last updated? Oh, we don't have one. Boom, perfect. Let's talk about it. Client meetings, client events. Anytime I talk to anybody, really, is I'm talking about the trust and or will. And if it's someone I've already touched point with in talking about trust and will, or TW, then I follow up with, okay, where are you in the process? I've noticed you're not done yet, right? To help get them going, because again, it doesn't need to take 2 to 3 years. Literally, you can do this in, I've had clients do it in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. And I want to talk about some of these clients a little bit later. So if you're looking at this slide, we've just sort of put together all of these different touch points, right? Client and prospect emails. Bob, you told me I always ask when they had their estate plan last updated. You note it in the CRM. You just simply ask questions, right? Come from a place of curiosity with your clients. You mentioned that you added in birthday emails as a PS, asking again when their trust or their will, their estate plan in general was last updated. Client meetings, client events, client webinars, and webinar follow-ups. If you're doing those things, annual reviews, beneficiary discussions are a great time to bring up the topic. I love that you said random phone calls, so I added that into this as well. And then life events like kids turning 18, marriages, and births. And that was actually something you and I talked about when we planned this, was the the children, the adult children of your clients, and these milestones like turning 18 or getting married. That was another area where you found it valuable to bring up the topic of estate planning, correct?
Yeah, I mean, talk about what we also hear as advisors is, generational wealth. And, as people get older, are their kids going to be clients of yours? I'll tell you what, I've been talking about it with kids turning 18, and the parents, my clients are ecstatic. Grandparents are ecstatic because, we're putting something in place that they didn't think about. When they turn 18, you're not automatically going to have your mom or your dad be your power of attorney, right? You may not even want that, or you may want that, and the court might decide against that. So having a will is very, very important. And then it kind of also just helps bring the family a little bit tighter with you. And so I found it to be a really great thing thus far and bring me closer to not just their children, but also to, just the tightness of our relationship in general.
Yep, absolutely. There was a point that I had made recently. I was talking to Advisorpedia. So they're a publication. They put out a lot of great content in our industry. And one of the things that I had mentioned was, if you have a client who has adult children and you haven't supported that client with their estate plan, let's say, unfortunately, the client passes away and then their assets go through probate, the stress that puts on those adult children, it's very stressful. It's timely. What are the chances that those adult children are going to say, you know what, let's continue working with the same advisor that our mom and dad worked with, when now, because of that lack of discussion even around the topic or helping your clients get prepared with an estate plan, it is at the heart and center of their assets, their financial well-being. The chances of those adult children working with that advisor are pretty slim at that point. And we've seen this, right? When people pass away, the adult children of those clients, they don't stay with the advisor that often unless there's some sticky points there. And we find estate planning to be such a wonderful sticky point. I will say that some of you on the chat are saying that the slide looks a little small, and I do have to agree. I'm going to try really quick here just to reshare in a different way. Give me one quick second. And then
While
go ahead.
Doing that, bring a couple points up. What's really great is as an advisor, I'm always trying to look for ways to be practical and implement things. And talking about a generational wealth, as I've done this and got wills for people who are 18, 24, 27, right? I mean, a lot of people don't have them until they're in their late 40s. Well, now that I've done that, these people are actually, becoming clients already, right, at such a young age. And some of them are just Henrys. Some of them are literally 18 or 19 years old. And, what you're able to do if you have a junior advisor is just onboard them with their junior advisor, right? Have them kind of bring on these smaller type clients. But at the end of the day, you're having a bigger household, and it's going to retain the generational wealth.
Absolutely. Yep, we did. We recently launched an advisor survey, and we interviewed advisors. We surveyed advisors, that use trust and will, but also advisors that don't use trust and will. And I mean, across the board, we found that if you're just bringing that conversation, into your relationships as an advisor, I think around 66% of them said, yes, I am retaining multi-generational assets thanks to this conversation, thanks to the estate planning. Okay, can you see the slide a little bit better, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot bigger now.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's move along here. Let's go to step 2. So we talked about all the touch points. I think one of the comments you made was like, there's literally always a chance to talk about estate planning. And I really, really appreciate that. Let's move into step 2. Like when you actually start having those conversations and you follow up with those conversations, one of the sort of strategies that you have, Bob, is you offer a complimentary will as a follow-up. Now, I want to preface this really quickly before we talk about it. Bob signed up with Trust and Will under our new subscription-based pricing. We call this seat-based pricing, where if you are an advisor who signs up with Trust and Will under this new pricing model, which we launched based on your feedback, then you don't have to worry about your clients paying for their estate plan directly or swiping their credit card or getting all those questions about pricing. Everything is under you, and you're essentially giving out complimentary estate plans. Now, how you charge on the back end through your planning fee is a different story. And yes, we're going to talk about that today. But I just want to make sure that that's really clear, is that the reason that Bob is able to just send a link and get them to start their estate plan for free is because he is under our subscription-based model, which is a yearly annual fee, and you can help up to 100 of your clients each year create their plan. So let's talk about this. Offering a free will is certainly a door opener that leads to more conversations in the future, especially around getting a trust. And I think your starting point is the will. So let's talk about this, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, so to me, it's a game changer, right? I mean, you can do, the one-offs, and, I'm sure someone can come up with the structure of who qualifies to get that will at a discount or whatnot. But with seat-based pricing, for me, it's just been a game changer. I can never go to not seat-based pricing because of the fact that it frees up time where I don't have to really think about it. Hey, if it's coming up in conversation, I think this is going to be a good client. I always mention, hey, you know what? At the end of our first 15-minute phone call, I'm going to give you a link to a complimentary will, whether we work together or not. And so that takes away from the, hey, what is this first phone call going to really be about? It really is just me finding out more about them. And they naturally will talk about their assets, this and that. And I just give them a complimentary will. With the will, I follow up with, lots of resources from Trust and Will on the difference between will and estate planning and trust planning, so that eventually they're going to want to move to a trust. But what this does, when I give them that complimentary will, it just opens the doors for more conversation about their assets, and it flows naturally, right? It doesn't feel like, hey, they mentally have to prepare for this financial conversation. It's going to happen, and they don't even know it's happening before they get that free will. And then the conversation just continues to go as you touch point with them, making sure they get the will done. And again, I send resources, like I mentioned, explaining the difference so that they eventually want to move to going to a trust, which obviously we all know is much better than just having a will. But if nothing else, having a will is better than nothing. And so yep. I always give out a complimentary will so that, we can get to that next step for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I do think it's a good starting point. It's better than nothing, as you said. So many advisors have told me that, they are talking about estate planning, and even then their clients aren't getting it done. Or maybe they were sent to the attorney and it was just too expensive. Or the processes just get so drawn out that they end up just not even ever completing it. And so I think it does prove that technology like Trust and Will, like estate document creation technology, is changing the game because clients are actually getting it done. Now, somebody mentioned a question in the chat that I want to highlight, and then I want to go through this resource really quickly of essentially is there room for both? Is there room for us having these relationships with estate planning attorneys and also for implementing Trust and Will with, the majority of our clients, maybe a few that wouldn't be good for Trust and Will because they have complex situations? Absolutely. We know that Trust and Will can't accommodate everyone. If you have complex situations, blended families, there's things that we just can't do. If you're beyond the taxable amount for estate planning, then for sure, like the estate tax threshold, then yes, you're going to need to talk to an attorney. Your situation is more complex. At the same time, even for those with, higher net worths that may not have blended families or specific complexities that wouldn't make them a good fit for Trust and Will, but they are in that higher net worth range or just have questions for an attorney, Trust and Will has that baked into our technology. So you will be able to have your clients connect with an attorney if they want to. Before we get any further, I just want to show this quick resource. This is the one that Bob was saying he shares with his clients often, or any prospects that he's even talking to. And so this just breaks down the difference between a will and a trust. There's a really good video here that we produced in a studio to make it simple. And then it just sort of goes through, point by point here. There's some graphics in here, which we find to be really helpful as well. So it sounds like, Bob, part of your strategy is offering that complimentary will, but also making sure they get the education to go along with it. Do you find that your clients are actually taking the time to look through the resources you send them?
Yeah, definitely. Showing the resource here to this link specifically is really twofold, right? It's to educate them, but it also takes off the table the question that a lot of people would ask is, why did you partner with Trust and Will, or who is Trust and Will? Did they just come up from someone's garage, right? By showing this link, they're automatically introduced to the website. They're introduced to all the resources. So it builds credibility on the brand name of Trust and Will right off the bat. not only does it do that, but then it also allows education, and then it gives them a place to go to get more education without calling Bob and be like, hey, Bob, can you send me more stuff about trust and will, right? So that this is probably one of the first things I share with anybody after talking about a will, so that it kind of takes off more questions that I don't need to be answering. They can get right off the website, and it builds a credibility there, moving into the next stage, or next process, if you will.
Yep, absolutely. That was another finding in our survey, was that advisors felt like one of their barriers to offering estate planning was maybe not having all that legal expertise, or feeling a little bit of that, hey, maybe there's some imposter syndrome going on. I don't want to talk about this. I don't know the answers to certain things. I just know it's really important. And I know I want my clients to be protected, their legacies to be protected. So that is exactly why we provide you with so much education. There's going to be some more resources just like that one linked in this presentation. So when you get the slides, folks, you can grab those links. You can share them with clients and prospects. Even if you don't use Trust and Will, there's still a lot of good education there that you can share out. Yes, George, I am happy to do that. So I'll grab that link here for you shortly. All right, so we're going to move along. So right now, resources, starting with that complimentary will, that's kind of how you follow up that initial conversation with it. And we know, you're busy trying to create a true workflow here so that it's a standard part of your client interactions, which I think is really important. So step 3, educate, 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 because this drives future opportunities. So I want to talk about this, Bob, and I think you'll do a lot better job explaining it than I will. But what you have found through your process, through our conversations, is that as you get folks started on that complimentary will, and as you send these resources, and as you start having these conversations, even with prospects, you're finding that even having the conversation with people that might not be rich yet, right? The Henrys of the world, or the accumulators that aren't nearing retirement, but they're in a good phase of their, financial journey, if you will, that those are still really good people to have these conversations with, because it opens it up for future opportunities, including 401k rollovers. Can you share a little bit more about this?
Yeah, this is where I get really, really excited. Again, when I first signed up, my mentality was not that I could make any money off of this. It literally was to change the world, help people. My sister's one of them. I've been telling her to get a trust for years, with my nephew. It's been 2 years. I've offered to, say, hey, you know what? I'll hook you up with my attorney, blah, blah, blah. Just the back and forth with attorneys, to drive and all that makes it difficult. With a TW, easy peasy, it's said and done. So that's what I was excited about, right? But the C-based pricing, it also excited me because I was able to give it out and, share with a lot of people without thinking about, okay, if you had to spend $500 of your own money, is it worth it for you? Should I do this or should I not? Should I go for this person or that person? It takes all that completely off the table. And what it does actually, now that I found out, is you're going to make more over than what you spend. I got 2 good examples. One hasn't closed yet, but I got introduced to a person with 1.6 million just because I gave a coworker a free will of theirs, right? That started the introduction. Would never have been there. But again, we can't monetize on that because it hasn't happened yet. But I do have examples of where I did a will, we moved on to getting a trust done, right? And we haven't even talked finances yet, right? But I know they had a 401k, and then they also had a joint account. Well, once a trust was done, it's very easy to talk about, well, how are you going to fund that, trust? We need to get that trust account or that joint account into the trust. And they said, hey, can you help with that? Yes. But before we do that, let's go ahead and see your statement. Let's go ahead and get it in the name of the trust before I have even done anything with it, right? My name's not even on the account yet, just helping them get it in the trust. Once that was done, it was no questions that they were going to go ahead and do whatever I recommended. And if we had to move assets from one, custodian to another, they would be happy to do that, right? Because we went through that process that didn't take very long, didn't take much time. To me, it didn't cost much money because everything was already C-based pricing for me. And then boom, all of a sudden it's like, hey, we need to fund your trust. You have that account, let's move it in. And that's happened more than, obviously more than once. So there's so much opportunity, not just to help educate advisors and help advisors be better advisors, help people better, help protect people better, but there's also a lot of opportunity here for you to actually make more of an income than you are now.
Yeah. And we're getting some questions about this in the chat specifically. So a few things here. Matt asks, when you send your clients to the website, have you had anyone ask about pricing? The price is posted on the website. and this is kind of a two-part question, because he also says, does anyone ask, why are you charging X when I can do it myself much cheaper? I want to just respond to that really quickly based on what we've talked with other advisors about that use Trust and Will. So when you are someone's financial advisor and you're deciding, I'm going to incorporate this in my process, I'm going to charge them on the back end as a planning fee, and then on the front end, they're not paying Trust and Will directly. But yeah, maybe they go to the website directly and they see our pricing. If you are charging any more, first off, it's usually not going to be like a perfect line item. But if you are line iteming it and it's charged to them and they can see maybe you charged them $600 for the entire offering, and then on our website, a will is $199. We've had advisors say that, it's not just the price of the actual estate plan that I'm charging you for. I'm also here to hold your hand. I'm going to go through actually creating the plan with you on a call. I'm going to walk you through the whole process. I'm also going to spend extra time during our annual reviews. I'm going to follow up with the beneficiaries that you list. We're going to have a family meeting about the estate plan, right? So you have to think about, there's more that is coming out of you offering it as a service than just the plan itself. Some of our advisors have brought in-house notaries. So if you do have a client create a plan on trustandwill.com, and for some reason they know you charge $600, but our website costs $200 just for the will, then that's almost the way you can approach it too. Is like they didn't have to go out and find a notary. Like that's already part of your process. So there's just more to it. And I know, Bob, in your scenario, in your case, you haven't quite reached this area just yet, right? Like you signed up for subscription-based pricing. You got a jump start on getting your clients to start getting logged into Trust and Will and creating their plan, but you haven't gotten to a place yet where you're actually incorporating this in the back end under your fee, correct?
Well, I started doing that since I, realized that I could. So I don't say, hey, go get a will, Trust and Will, and I'm charging this much, or, get the trust. Like you mentioned, is part of the whole planning aspect, right? So I actually haven't had a client ask me about pricing on this because, again, I have the fee-based pricing. So, when I incorporate a planning fee, I include the trust in the planning fee. And again, the fee on the planning fee depends on, how much we already have AUM, or how much AUM we're going to have, and then also how depth of a financial plan we have to build, right? And like you mentioned, there's a lot of intangibles that go with having an advisor, helping them with the trust. You get access to the trust that they allow you. You can see kind of a aerial view of, hey, did they line up all the pieces right? Should that person actually be the trustee? You can have those general conversations with them, and then you can also make sure they get it done, right? That's one of the things that most of my clients have told me that they love about Trust and Will. It's the fact that I've been talking to them for years about getting a trust done, and we just couldn't get it done. I do not control the schedule of my clients and the attorneys they talk to, or the attorneys that I network with, right? But what I can control is the fact that I can get all my clients, kind of call them once a week if I need to. Hey, you need to get this done. I see you're 15% of the way done. What's the holdup, right? And that's one of the things they appreciate much, is getting it done, right? So it's one of those things. Hey, you can pay an attorney $3,500 and you might get it done in a year because you're just kind of slow playing it. Or now you pay whatever you charge, you get a plan with it, you get the trust done, and your advisor makes sure the trust is done and done correctly and notarized.
Yep, absolutely. Also, just to mention, this whole workflow of getting your clients to log into the platform, you have your own advisor dashboard, and you're sort of inviting them into the platform. Whatever they do will now be monitored under your advisor dashboard. You can see where they're at in the process, if they've completed it or not. So you're sending them quite a unique link. Not to say, again, they couldn't go and look at pricing on their own, but I think it's quite the opposite. I think people are really delighted when they see the pricing and they know that you're going above and beyond just what they're doing in the platform to help sort of plan around this, right? So it does become more a part of your expanded planning. Matt, hopefully that answered your question. If you have any more, please do. Mark asked something about compliance. I want to touch on that. And then George, he wanted a link to more information on subscription-based pricing. So I did just put a link in the chat to just a little bit more info about seat-based pricing. If you want to learn more, though, you do have to talk to our team. It's not something that you can just go sign up for on your own. We just want to make sure that compliance is there, we're a good fit. So I will share with you in just a second how to book that call. But let's see here. There was one other question from Mark. So Mark asked, if you offer a free will, are there compliance issues in terms of making gifts to clients? And from what I've understood, Bob, it's not really a gift, right? You're not giving, it's just part of your process at this point. And again, if you have some sort of line item where you're charging them back for, then it's certainly not a free gift. Would you have anything to share about from a compliance standpoint?
Yeah, from a compliance standpoint, I let compliance deal with that. So everything I do, I probably actually do too much of. I mean, I literally send into compliance every single thing. They actually kind of get annoyed with me because there's too much stuff in the hopper. But I know that on my end, compliance has already approved me being able to give out complimentary. They don't like the word free will. Complimentary will is the way to go. But that's already been pre-approved on my end. So I know for me, I don't have any compliance issue with that. So I don't imagine anyone else would either, as long as you just let your broker dealer know that, hey, you bought the seat-based pricing, you have this, and you plan on giving free resources, right? It's kind of like, hey, if you give someone again, it might not be exact, but if you give someone a book, right? As long as compliance knows that you gave them a book, they're okay with it. So as long as you let compliance know that, hey, part of your process is giving this complimentary will. It doesn't go to everybody, but if they want it, it's there. As long as they pre-approve it, you should be fine. Again, I'm not a compliance guy, but that's why I go to my department. They pre-approve it, then I'm able to do it.
Yep. Yeah. So we've worked with LPL Financial directly. I think we have a few LPL advisors on the call, but if you're not with LPL, we are also approved at several other organizations, broker dealers. One of our other biggest partners is Northwestern Mutual. I think there's a few advisors here on the call for that too. So if you have questions specifically about your organization, definitely talk to our team and we can work through all of that with you. So again, I dropped that link to seat-based pricing. If you're curious about pricing, the way we charge is a one-time annual fee of $4,000 for that first seat. So you as an advisor, you fill one seat. And then if you have other advisors in your firm that you want to use the seat-based pricing, you want to get them in on the subscription, then it's just $2,000 per additional advisor per year. But it is, again, $4,000 for the year. That gets you your subscription for one advisor. They can dole out over 100 plans within a single year. And yes, there's a question in the chat about wills and trusts needing to be notarized. Then yes, that is required to have wills and trusts be notarized. So we provide a ton of instruction for your clients to do that when we send them the physical documents. We do send physical documents to the door. They look beautiful. They're all in this nice package. And then we'll give them some information on where to find a local notary. But again, some advisors are just now doing that in-house for their clients. So adding on more value there. Okay, there are a few other resources here. I won't go through all of them, but I just will quickly show like what something like this looks like. What happens when you pass away without a will. So you're sort of following down this really easy infographic. We have the same for trust. So all of that is available there. And when you get the slides, you'll be able to click on all those links. And they're also just directly in our Learn Center. Okay, can you see that, Bob?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's move along here and let's talk about some real world results. That one is kind of hard to say. Real world results. What are some things you've experienced, Bob, as you've implemented estate planning into your practice over these last 6 months? First thing I want to talk about is this exciting success story. And I think you said it was like at a Post Malone concert, which just another reason why you're such a cool person. You've got some good taste across the board.
And it was in Nashville.
It was where?
In Nashville.
Oh, even better. I love Nashville. All right, so talk to us a little bit about this. I think you were at a concert. You had a client who brought their brother and sister-in-law, and then you just opened up the conversation about estate planning.
Yeah, they had kids, so we were just talking about it. And I mentioned, hey, if nothing else, since you're friends with these people, let me help you with the complimentary will. They said yes. And then after that, as I get on my email list and learn more and get the will done, and I follow up with getting the will done, it just led to, referrals, right? And like I mentioned earlier, we got one that's actually 1.6 million to the client referral. We're already working together. I'm pretty sure they're going to become a client because we're, pretty far along in the process already. But it's one of those things where when I got into seat-based pricing, I was kind of thinking about just helping people. Really, that's what I was thinking about. I knew there was an opportunity, but for everybody on this call, you're gonna make so much more back, because again, I don't have the streamlined process yet. I started in May, really started working at it in June, so I'm still trying to figure this out, right? But it's already paid for itself over and over. And as I get better at this and streamline the process a little bit more, I just see a huge opportunity. I think it's been about 5-6 months now. And I think I probably have 25 to 26 people that are signed up. So some of the questions might be, hey, do I need 100, need to be able to do 100 documents? I would say you probably do, because again, I just started this. I'm already at 25 for 6 months without having a real process, right? So I'm excited to see 6 months from now, what my streamlined process is going to be. I'm sure I'll be hitting that 100. I'll probably be asking, can I buy 2 seats?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what happens when you do reach that 12-month mark, going into your 13th month? We'll give you another 100. So it refreshes every year. But for superstars like Bob, who is not only, really sharing these wills or estate plan opportunities with their clients, but also their prospects, you might reach that a little bit quicker. So, yep, there's always options there to have a chat with us. But for the most part, based on just demand and conversations we've had with advisors as we launched this, we figured 100 would be a good starting point. Adriana asked, do you have a team that helps you with follow-ups and creating a process? So I'm not sure, Adriana, if you're asking Trust and Will that question, or if you're asking Bob that question. Bob, do you have any other team members on staff, or are you a solo?
Yeah, no, I have a couple different advisors on staff. Some of our advisors have junior advisors. I do not have a junior advisor. I have a few admins. But as a process leads to right now, when it comes to the new TW or Trust and Will process, it's something that I'm nurturing myself. I don't have any of my staff reaching out to any of these people about, hey, did they get their will done or how they're doing. I'm doing that myself just to kind of get a better grasp on it, so I can better build this workflow and this process, so that I can show it to my admins as a playbook, so it's easy for them to just quickly follow it up, look here, no, it's not done, give them a quick phone call. That's the ultimate goal and plan, to make it more efficient. But right now, as I figure that out, I'm doing it myself.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for shedding light on your company structure. I think that's important for everyone here, because we're all operating firms of different sizes, of different team sizes. So that's helpful to know. A couple other questions here. Somebody mentioned it would be good if Trust and Will allowed advisors to input a Trust and Will lead on the Trust and Will website manually. If an advisor copies the link, the prospect the link, instead of using Trust and Will's email invite, you can do both, George. So that is already available to you. If you have any more questions on that, please let me know. And then Lonnie asks, is 100 the total number of clients, or is it 100 trusts? Is it 100 wills? And it really is just both. It's 100 plans in total, whether it's wills or it's trusts. And the thing about estate doc creation technology is that it's going to sort of guide your clients to decide what kind of plan they need, whether they need a will or they need a trust. In many cases, a trust is obviously superior, but the technology is sort of what guides them through. They do a questionnaire, and then the technology is sort of telling them, here's what you need based on what you input. So that's also important, because that's where you as a financial advisor are not getting into the unauthorized practice of law zone. You don't want to be there whatsoever. You can't tell people what kind of estate plan they specifically need, but you can nudge them to get started with creating an estate plan, and the technology is what decides that for them.
And on top of that, real quick, I got something quickly to add. The technology is so great that literally I think I had one person out of the 24 or 25 ask me a question about technology and how to use something inside TW, right? But once you go in, literally the questions they ask, it's easy to answer. And if you don't know what a word is or what something means, like trustee or successor trustee, there's this little robot guy, right? AI, if you will, that easily answers that question. And it's really well done. So it's very self-explanatory. So as an advisor, you're not actually even spending all that much more time adding a new service that you don't know when you might get compensated for, right? It's really designed well.
Yep, absolutely. Somebody asked for a couple under the seat subscription. Does that count as 2 wills? And no, it counts as 1 will. We're getting a few other questions that are coming in. I'm going to move along to this next slide really quick. I'll continue to answer your questions. Don't worry, I see all of them, but I just want to make sure we get through some of this content here that we've prepared. So let me make my way over to the deck. So thanks for sharing that story. So what I learned from this, what I take away from this is that, I mean, that's as organic as it comes, right? You're meeting people that are connected with your clients. So you have a little bit of that trust line already drawn there, but they certainly don't totally know you. And you're making the case for them of why they need an estate plan. They have children now. It's important. And that's such a great way to get the conversation rolling. So the next thing I wrote in here was just the fact that so many of your clients, you've been asking them for years, nudging them for years about estate planning. And I think what I took away from that, Bob, is that you didn't really get a lot of oversight into the process if the only pathway you have in your business is to send them to an attorney. Again, I said in the beginning, I think you need both. I think you need attorney relationships, and I also think you could benefit from technology like a trust and will. But from only having one or the other, you sort of you're not really delivering on as much value as you could for your client. So anything you'd want to add here, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, this should really hit home with all us advisors. Just imagine that you had someone who had an account and it was a fixed account, and let's just say they're 50 years old and they have a fixed account out of surrender, and you say, hey, you really need to be in a variable account or be in mutual funds, 60-40 blend, whatever it is that you might recommend, and you tell them to go do it. They're going to take forever to get it done, probably, right? But if you're the one helping them do it, you help them send the paperwork, you're making calls with them, it's going to get done. You know it's going to get done because that's what we do. Same thing here, so much with estate planning is you tell them to go get a trust done, put in all of them to go get done. It could take forever, 2, 3, 4 years, sometimes even 5. But now if you're doing it through TW, you have a report that you can easily go on and see on the dashboard, if they're 50% done or 75% done, and then they grant you access. It's easy for you to just give them a quick phone call and help them get it done. Literally, it takes less than 30 minutes. One of the things I tell people is because with trust and will, when you go to an attorney and you want to make changes, what do you have to do? Call that attorney, go make changes, go through the whole process almost again, right? Even if they don't charge you for it. It's a hassle. With trust and will, if you need to make changes, you make changes inside the portal. Yes, you might have to print it again and go get it re-notarized, but it can easily get done. So it's not just good for getting things started, it's good for making updates as well. And so with that being said, I tell people, hey, our game plan is to have you get done within 1 quarter because of the fact that you don't need to worry about all the weeds, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and thinking about every single asset you have that you want to give to somebody. Just get the basics done. Now you have something in place. So if something does happen, you're protected. Now go ahead and spend however long you want thinking about all the watch collections or jewelry collections or paintings and whatnot, and add those. And once you get those added, print out another one and go get it notarized. Boom. Now you have one that's going to supersede the other one, right? But you're able to update it very easily, which also allows you to get it done quickly because you're not too worried about making it perfect the first time.
Yep. Absolutely. That is such a good point. I'm answering some more questions here in the chat. And I think I know the answer to this one, but Sam asked if it's 100 plans a year for either a trust or a will, Bob, why not offer a complimentary trust than a will? And I think you kind of just explained a little bit of that right there. But, working on creating a trust is a longer process in trust and will. And it feels like the will is probably the most accessible, most tangible right out the gate. Anything you'd say there?
Yeah, great question. Because as advisor, we all know a trust is a lot better than a will. But we also know that clients or even prospects, deer in the headlights. If something's going to be too much work and they don't fully understand the importance of it, it's not worth it to them, right? So yeah, we can get it done in 30 minutes or so, and we know that's a great time saver. But clients and prospects don't know that, they don't have one, right? A will, I actually did a video timing myself doing a will and assuming we had kids and all this good, as depth that you can in a will, it took 7 minutes, right? Minus the notary, of course, but it took 7 minutes to get done. So that's more likely that it's going to get done. And then once that's done, you can start educating them because you don't want to tell them which one's better. I'm not an attorney by any means, right? So by offering complimentary will and educating them, eventually they're going to want that trust, right? And you're going to talk more about it and, educate them about why trust is better. Now they're going to want to take the next step. If you just offer the trust off the get-go, I don't know, because it's not part of my process, I don't know how many people actually just kind of get hung up on the fact that, okay, I started it, has too many questions, and pause, right? Mm-hmm. I know with the will, they get it done, move on to the next step. And now that they know the value of the trust, something that might pause somebody who doesn't understand, they walk through it, they go through it, they get it done.
Yep. Spot on advice. Sam says, I love that answer. So awesome. Thank you so much for that, Bob. Okay, so we're going to move along here and get into just a couple of points that I'm taking away from this. As I had this conversation with Bob, as I was kind of building out these slides, there's two big things here I'm taking away. First off is that even clients or prospects, future clients with minimal assets can bring major opportunities when you focus on the long-term value. It's a really good relationship starter. And then the second is that having technology is going to simplify the process, and it's actually going to motivate people to take action quickly. As you just said, you had someone, maybe it was like 7 minutes or something. So like that's pretty historic timing. Whereas the traditional methods, which to date has always been for advisors, you have attorney relationships and you send them there. Those lead more often than not to just stalled conversations, stalled estate plans. So I feel like the combination of these two things has almost been a bit of an aha moment for me personally, maybe for some of you on the line, and wanted to kind of share this, just taking away from your success, Bob. So what about how you approach your clients? Now, Bob has shared his philosophy, his sort of touch points philosophy, all the different places he's bringing it up, some of his strategies. If you want actual language, actual positioning, this will be in the slides for you. It's an email that we created at Trust and Will for our advisors to help them start the conversation. So it's really simple, as you can see, which more often than not, as a marketer, I can tell you the simple emails, the shorter emails are the ones that are going to get the more responses and the more engagement. Subject line, when should you make an estate plan? So you're really just posing a question, and that's evoking curiosity to get your clients to really think about this, open your email, and right away you're just telling them, hey, here's the most common life milestones that prompt people to make their estate plans, whether it's upcoming travel, moving states, buying a home, getting married, having kids, some sort of inheritance. And then what you're doing is you're just telling them, hey, learn more about when and why you should estate plan and what happens if you die without a will. So right there where it says link to your content, you could link to something that you've created on your own, or you could link to our Learn Center, as so many of our advisors often do, or some of our advisors just create their own Learn Center on their own website, take some of our content that we give to you for free, and they're sending their clients there. So whatever you feel most comfortable with, and then a link to your calendar for them to have that conversation with you, or that could also just be a link into the Trust and Will platform where they can go ahead and with that invite link, start working through creating an estate plan. So you will all have this available to you. Okay, I want to do a little bit of recap. I want to say a couple of things here. We are going to have a Q&A in just a second. So if you have more questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. You guys have been really chatty, which is awesome. And hopefully that means you're learning and you're enjoying this content. And then I'm going to give you a way to actually book a call with our team. So I'm going to do that here in just a second. I'm coming back to see if there are any other questions here. Can an advisor notarize the documents if providing the service complimentary? Pretty sure the answer there is yes. If you have like your own in-house notary, if you want to incorporate that as part of your process, that is okay. And Caesar, I mentioned earlier that that's one of those, value adds that you're including on top of just getting the estate plan. And that's why you can validate charging a fee on the back end instead of it being perfectly matching to what Trust and Will charges. You're going above and beyond. So, yeah, these other questions here are really good. So let's just take a quick second just to look through this recap. Also, one thing I want to answer, because we got this question more than once, people are asking as part of that 100 plans, if somebody starts with a will, but then later they want to do a trust, because Bob, you're encouraging your clients and prospects to start with the will. They can do that. They can upgrade their product from a will to a trust, and that's still going to be included under your plan. Somebody else also asked a very interesting question about having the ability to, instead of doing the seat-based pricing, to just purchase some plans and send them out. Maybe you want to purchase 10 estate plans directly from Trust and Will instead of being incorporated under our seat-based model. As of right now, you can do that. And to me, that's what makes Trust and Will stand out from some of the competition, which there's a question in here about that as well. We're going to talk about that, is the fact that we do have that available. Your clients can pay, or you as the advisor can pay that annual fee. That is awesome. You have two pathways. And to my knowledge, really not many other tools out there. I think there's one other tool out there that has this. But we also have a third option today, and that is, yes, you could buy 10 plans technically, 10 trusts, 10 wills, and you could dole those out as you need to, but I don't think that option is going to be around forever. So just know we will still always give you two options. We'll still always give you two options, but that middle ground option, it's available right now. I'm just not sure how much longer it will be available. Okay, real quick recap, and then we're going to hit this Q&A because it is lighting up. It's so good. So a couple of things. Tip number one, offer a free will to open the door. If you're under our seat-based pricing model, it's even easier to do this. Tip two, use Trust and Will's resources to educate. Whether you use Trust and Will's resources or not, just know education is a huge part of your success in implementing estate planning for your client. Tip three, integrate estate planning into your workflow. This really needs to become part of the financial planning conversation. It should not be an afterthought. These are Bob's words. And then tip four, focus on future opportunities. Just know that, getting the conversation started today could lead to really meaningful opportunities later that will bring in more assets into your firm, even if that doesn't mean right away, like those future 401k rollovers, more referrals from your clients because they're so happy with you and they feel like you're really going above and beyond to make sure they're in a financially well spot. And that happens when you start talking about estate planning, because a lot of other advisors are not talking about estate planning. So that's a quick recap. And then if you are interested, before we open up Q&A, and learning more about our seat-based pricing, right? So this is a little bit of a summary. I dropped a link in the chat. You get so much oversight as an advisor. You get your own dashboard. You get to see client documents. We create estate summaries for every single client and visuals that you can use when you have a meeting with them. So you don't actually have to pull up their estate plan with all this legalese. No, that we have a very separate interface for you as an advisor. It's beautiful, it's clean, it's simple, and we're always improving it. So we are always taking feedback from our advisors, education, resources. We go above and beyond for our advisors here. So just know that that is open to you. We also have an attorney network. So this is available for all of your clients, whether you want to pay for it or they want to pay for it, that they can talk with an attorney and they can get their questions answered. Now, if they just have some basic questions, they also don't have to go to you. They can talk to our team. We have a member success team who is always available for them. I believe we're Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I'm probably butchering that a little bit, but in general, we're operating in business hours. And if they have questions, they can talk to the team directly. But we also have a team for you as the advisor. So if you have questions, if you have feedback, we have an advisor success team as well. As I mentioned, everything is guided. It's going to take them to the right plan based on their unique situation, and they can complete a will in as little as 30 minutes. A trust, usually we say about 45 minutes. So everything is driven by technology. Okay, so here is the slide for you to book your estate planning strategy session. This is if you're interested in the subscription-based pricing model and you want to talk with the team, go ahead and scan this QR code. I'm also going to put this link in the chat for you now. And that way, if you don't want to scan the QR code, totally cool. You can grab this link and book with our team. So there we go. That's in the chat. Or just type the word estate in the chat. So Sean, I just saw you type the word estate. I'll be sure to send you this exact link via email. So if you just want to get to it later, that's fine too. So again, the link is in the chat if you want to book some time with our team to learn more about the seat-based pricing model, how to integrate this into your business, or just type the word estate in the chat, and we'll make sure to send you a follow-up email with a link to book this. Okay, now moving along here, there's one other opportunity I want to give for you. This is just at trustandwill.com/advisors. If you're not ready to talk to our team, if you're not ready to talk to Bob, or you don't have any questions for Bob today, that's okay. I want to give you one other pathway here, and that is you can create a free advisor dashboard account. So at least you can get into the tool and you can click around and you can start to see how all this works. You can even create your own estate plan if you wanted to. you could create a free estate plan if you sign up under our subscription-based pricing model. So that is also very valuable. If you're an advisor and you sign up for seat-based pricing, we will open up the account for you to create your own estate plan for free. So you get to go through the process first and have that experience, that lived experience to share with your clients, which I think is really important. One of the findings from our survey was that 1 out of 4 advisors don't have an estate plan themselves. And I think that's interesting to me. I think human nature is to put it off, but we do encourage you to create your own estate plan, go through the process. And if you sign up for seat-based pricing, then not only will we give you a free estate plan, but you, again, can share that experience with your clients. And then the last slide before we open it up for the live Q&A is to connect with Bob. So Bob, you're clearly a golfer.
Not very good.
I think we all say that, right? I like to golf too, but I get really frustrated with it. I have my good days and bad days. This is your LinkedIn. Is this a good place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, good place.
Okay. All right. So if you want to connect with Bob, I'll leave this up on the screen as well. Okay. Sandra asked a question. So we're going to go through the questions now. Give me just a second here, and I will cover all of this. So seat-based pricing, Sandra, $4,000 annual fee. That gives you 1 seat. You can dole out 100 plans a year, whether it's a will or whether it's a trust. You have 100 plans a year, okay? Now, if you have more advisors in your firm and you want to, they all have access to do their 100 plans a year with their clients, it's an extra $2K per advisor per year. So again, $4K per year, unlimited, up to 100 complimentary plans. It's a one-time fee. All right, let's get through some of these questions here. While we do that, so some of you are still scanning the QR code to get connected with Bob here. Give you one more second to do that, and then I will bring this back to this slide. This is to book a talk with our team to learn more, to talk about your business, compliance, all that good stuff. All right, let's go to the questions. Now, this is my favorite question so far. And I know we are at time, folks, and if you have a few more minutes, I have a few more minutes. Bob, do you have maybe like 5 more minutes?
Yeah, no, I got time. I'd like to add something for anybody who's about to leave real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We had our tips, but there's a couple things I'm really excited about. One, again, I've only been doing this for about 6 months and already have about 25 people on the platform. I think about all the years I've been an advisor, and I don't think I've done that much living wills or trusts. So I'm excited for the change that is about to come, see what's going to happen in 6 months from now. I'm also excited to put together a workflow to share with other advisors so that we can go out there and make a difference together and get people so they can get their wills and their trust. And then I'm also excited for those that are on this call, because I really feel that whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years from now, the industry is going to have been changed, that most advisors are going to be doing something like this. And you're either going to be the person who, hey, I'm working on a client's going to ask you, and you can say, hey, I'm working on doing that right now. I'll have it up and running soon. Or you can be the advisor that said, hey, I've been doing that for the last 1, 2, 3 years, helping people get those things done. It's really up to you, but I see that this is going to be, at least for me, I can't imagine not having this anymore, right? If TW took this away from me, I'd be devastated. I really would be. So I'm excited for everybody who's on this call. So really think about that.
That couldn't be better said. I completely agree. I think today it's a huge differentiator. I think tomorrow and a few years from now, really, you will be very behind if you're not offering it. So I couldn't agree more. Okay, let's get through some of these questions. You've got a few more minutes. Thank you for being so generous with your time, Bob. I'm sorry that we didn't leave a little bit more time baked in. I think we just had a lot going on this whole thing, this whole webinar. So Bob, can you also talk about why you picked Trust and Will versus other online platforms such as Vanilla or FreeWill or Estately or Wealth.com?
Well, I have used some of those, so I'm not going to mention names, right? I've actually used a couple of those. I am, yes, I'm well versed in, I would say 3 of those mentioned I've actually worked with. A couple of them actually signed up with, and experience for me, just it didn't work out. It wasn't free flowing. It wasn't convenient. So it didn't work for me. Not that they don't work. A couple other ones also have different structures. Some are more of, almost a planning tool, if you will. Trust and Will, I mean, it's very, very simple. It's to help people get a will or a trust, right? And that's exactly what I use it for, and it works very, very well. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It absolutely does. Thank you. And you don't have to share any specifics. I think what I took from that is just the flow, right? There was a good flow with trust and will, and that's what we want. That's why we have such a dynamic team. That's why we invest so much in the technology, and it's ever evolving. And we do heavily invest in the education and the process side of things. I want to share a quick comment that we got from someone in our chat box that is fantastic. She said, I did my own trust and will to know what the client experienced. I'm also a mobile notary that provides notary and witness services to my community. I completed the trust and will, got it in the mail, looked it over, and set it aside for months. I now know exactly what people go through. It's overwhelming even when you have the answers and resources at your fingertips. Having someone to coach you through the process and remind you would be priceless. And that is the value right there of having the advisor inserted into the process. You couldn't have said it better, Janessa. Thank you for sharing that.
Was that a MasterCard commercial?
That is like the perfect. I took a screenshot because I was like, yes, this is everything right now. So thank you, Janessa.
Awesome.
Okay. Do you encourage your clients to get a trust where you have a better chance of getting AUM versus a will?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Do you encourage your clients to get a trust where you will have a better chance of getting assets under management versus a will?
Okay, so yeah, so we have to differentiate between prospects and clients, right? Different workflow, different set of things that I go through. When it's a client, right, a lot of times I've already had conversations about wills and trust. So I start talking directly about the difference between will and trust and encourage them that trust is probably the better route for them, right? Again, I can't say a will is better or a trust is better, not an attorney, but I've already talked about the two differences. So I do encourage them, hey, I have a trust myself. This is why I have a trust. These are the difference between a trust and a will. And then also talk about how you can put assets in the name of the trust, right? You can record your deed in the name of the trust. You can put a joint account in the name of the trust. Your bank account at the checking and savings bank account, wherever you bank, is probably not even, it's just in your name. You can put that in the name of the trust. So eventually it tends to just automatically kind of flow to them wanting to get a trust. And it has happened where all of a sudden when that happens, you find out a couple other accounts you didn't know about, because guess what? They need your help because you helped them with the trust. They need your help because they don't want to go on the portal and print it themselves. So you go print their trust certification for them so that they can, give it to the other account you don't know about so they can be put in the trust. Now you know about that asset. So, I mean, it's many great things about using this tool. Again, the base foundation is just motivate yourself to give people wills and trust, and because we know it's better for everybody, and then everything else will just come with it.
Yep, and lead with the education, because again, as an advisor, you shouldn't really be saying, well, based on your situation, you absolutely need this kind of plan. That's where you're kind of getting into that unauthorized practice of law zone. We don't want to do that. Somebody asked, only revocable trust. Yes, as of today, that is correct. And then Joe, does Trust and Will have a resource to review clients' current documents? Not yet, but do stay tuned, because this has been a very highly demanded request and we are working on it. So I'm excited to share that. I don't have much more to share as of right now, but I can tell you our team is on it, hands-on. Every day we get a request of that nature. So do stay tuned for that in the future. And so many of you typed the word estate. So let me just scroll back up, or maybe we'll take one more question. I don't want to take any more of your time, Bob. Let's see here. Introduce them to attorneys. So we talked about attorney support. This one I want to end with. Alex asks, how hands-on are you in helping them create the will or trust? Are you walking them through the process or just sending them a link?
So what I'm doing, it kind of depends on the client, right? So a lot of times I'm just sending them a link. I'm trying to make it not become more work for me. So that's why I kind of have the workflow of, as soon as I talk about the will, introducing them to that 8-minute read that's on TW's website, because that gets them a little bit more familiar with the website already, right? And so when they create their login, once you create your login, it's pretty self-explanatory on the will side. I haven't had much, I don't think I've had any questions really while they're going through the will. I did have one where once we reviewed the will after it was done, they did put as a trustee someone who was under 18. And so I said, hey, you might want to rethink of that, and gave them resources and told them why. But other than that, it's been pretty streamlined where I'm not really much hands-on on it really until they want the notary, and then I have a notary in our house. So if they want to drive to our office, they can do that. But let's be practical, driving in California where I live, whether it's 5 miles or 15 miles, it can take a long time. So sometimes it's easier to just go down the street to your local post office or UPS store.
Yep. And I'll just share some advisors, they do make it a little bit more hands-on, like they want to be on a call with the client, but you do need to make sure your client is driving, at least as of right now, the way the technology is built. And personally, with, again, unauthorized practice of law, which you always want to be careful with, I think it's better to have your clients drive, but you can certainly get on a meeting with them and they can do a screen share and you can kind of help them get through it, especially for those like less tech savvy. But from what I've heard, it's really just with those less tech savvy clients that advisors are really even having to do that. So I'm going to answer one last question, then we'll close up. Does Trust and Will allow advisors to prepay for individual clients' trust and will legal services on a client-by-client basis without sharing the invoice information with the client? So under the subscription-based pricing model, that 4K is what gets you the 100 plans. If you want to provide attorney support for your clients directly without them having to pay for it, then you would pay an additional 2K per year on top of the 4K. That's for the attorney support. Now, here's the reality. Not everyone's going to need attorney support. Some of them will. If you would rather that the client pays directly per client that actually needs attorney support, then they can pay. They would have to swipe their own credit card, and it's $300. And that gives them a full year of unlimited attorney support. So either your clients pay directly for $300, or you can pay the 2K extra a year and you can shell out attorney support to all of your clients that work on getting an estate plan under Trust and Will. Okay. We are 10 minutes past the hour. I never go this far beyond time on a webinar. So Bob, I think that says a lot about you and about what you brought to the table today with all of your wonderful advice, your experience. And we can't wait to hear, Bob, from you in the near future with how things shape up. And maybe we'll do another webinar later in 2025 just to catch back up and see where you're at and see how things have changed for you. For now, though, thank you, Bob, so much for being here. For sharing everything with our staff. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience today?
The only thing I can really say is I'm very passionate about Trust and Will. I love what it's done for me. I love how they brand themselves so it really separates you where you're not making any type of legal advice. That's really important to note. But like I said, it's, if nothing else, everybody should try to sign up and get their own dashboard and go through it that way. I just can't say enough great things about TW, and I'm glad I got introduced to them.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Bob. We hope to see you again soon. Everyone have a happy holidays, and we'll see you in January for our next webinar. Be on the lookout for that. We will be announcing that soon. Take care, everyone.